Welcome everyone to Top 10 Tips to Hire Bilingual Virtual Staff. My name is Hugo Gomez. I am the founder of Abogados Now. Abogados Now, if you're not familiar with us, is the first Hispanic marketing agency for attorneys. And we thank you for letting us talk on this specific topic of bilingual virtual assistants. We're not going to really be talking about too much about marketing. We're really going to be talking about how to hire really great staff in your firm beyond marketing. And quick note about us, we've been around for close to 8 years. We really know virtual staffing. Our whole team is virtually virtual staffing. We're across North, Central, and South America. We've helped over 300 attorneys nationwide, namely with marketing, but we also provide virtual professionals as well. And thousands of legal professionals have joined our events to learn about things that have to do with their legal marketing or things that don't have to do with their legal marketing, like virtual assistants or intake processes or firm operations. We like to speak to the entire experience of running a law firm beyond marketing. Now, today, we're going to get into the most commonly hired roles at a law firm. We're going to go into what are the obvious benefits and some not so obvious benefits. And lastly, of course, the top 10 tips to hire based on our own experience as a marketing organization, but also the 10 tips that we've gathered from all of our attorney members who hire virtual paralegals, case managers, virtual receptionists, etc. It's going to be a mix of all these insights and frankly, 10 tips that I think will move the needle today. So, just like in all of our other events, our promise today is we're going to show you something new. We're going to show you something that's actionable that you can implement today. And lastly, we're not here to sell you anything. So, if you're interested in Abogados Now about Hispanic marketing, go to abogadosnow.com. That's not what this event is for. This event is for you to take a lot of notes, to take a lot of information down. As always, there will be limited replays, largely exclusive to our existing members of Abogados Now. And if for whatever reason you go to abogadosnow.com and you want to follow up further on other services or you want to have a follow-up discussion on today's topic, maybe even want one of our virtual professionals, by all means, email me directly at hugo@abogadosnow.com. I personally manage and respond to all of my emails with attorneys. So let's start off first with the roles that are most commonly hired at a law firm virtually. The first category is with admin and client support. And the first one is the virtual receptionist. This one's someone who handles calls, schedules appointments, directs inquiries to certain stakeholders in your firm. Highly recommended. We're going to get into how to find the right virtual receptionist, find the right hire in a moment. But ultimately, someone that manages your phones so that you never have to answer your phones again. Client intake specialist. This is someone that knows about qualifying new potential clients, screening. They manage your intake forms. They might even update them or give you new ideas on your intake forms. They gather initial case details. The admin assistant. This is more like the executive assistant. This is someone that manages your calendar, you taming your email inbox, managing your email quarantine. Who hates doing that? I do. Your travel bookings, your general admin tasks. This is someone that may even help you, renegotiate your lease. I mean, we've seen this happen time and time and again. And lastly, in the admin side, it's billing and collections. So this is especially true if you bill by the hour or if you bill retainers or payment plans. Preparing invoices, getting into QuickBooks, customizing all these fields can take quite a bit of time. So you want someone to do that, who follows up on payments, who handles collections, and who can sort of be the third eye for you to create new processes to collect payment effectively. The next category of hires that we're seeing is legal support and case management. Virtual paralegal. These are extremely common now. Someone that conducts legal research, drafts documents for you, manages case files. The legal assistant, someone that helps you with case preparation or organizing evidence, handling court filings. The discovery or e-discovery specialist, that's someone that manages document review, evidence gathering, digital discovery. These are folks that are a little more experienced with working in a law firm, either in their own home countries or even domestically with prior virtual experience. Next category is one we can obviously speak to a lot on. It's marketing and lead generation. There are so many hires you can make under marketing. The most common one is a social media manager, the brand manager, the video editor, the website manager, someone that runs your email newsletters, manages your blogs and SEO, someone that manages your local service ads, runs your Google ads, your Facebook ads. Obviously, their objective is to get you more clients, more phone calls. And there are probably of all categories, this is probably the one you can hire the most for because there are so many different types of roles. We've previously spoken about how there are at least 35 channels that you should be on. So you could say, presumably, that there's at least 35 people that you could hire for marketing in your organization. In the next category, we've got technology and IT support. So CRM and database manager. Maybe you're tired of working out of Google Sheets. Maybe you've outgrown working out of Google Sheets and Excel's being shared over email. And it's time to get into a CRM, Practice Panther, or maybe you want to go into Lead Docket or Lawmatics to organize your marketing. You're going to need someone aside from that software as a service provider to implement that for you and maintain it and manage it on your behalf on a regular basis. That goes the same with IT and system support. When you're working with virtual professionals, security is extremely important. You want to make sure that you have an IT partner on your side who's looking out for your exposure or lack thereof. And lastly, a virtual project manager, someone that can tie up all these pieces together. That's someone that knows how to speak and negotiate contracts with IT professionals on short-term and long-term basis. Someone that knows about workflows, like case workflows. How many times have you looked at your process and said, man, the way we take a client from soup to nuts is probably a little inefficient. Maybe there's too much paper rolling around. A project manager could literally make you a paperless organization to the best of your abilities, depending on obviously your capabilities and laws that require certain wet signatures, etc. But overall, you can get people to really make you as much of a paperless organization as possible. And lastly, the more specialized roles, it's that appointment setter, someone that calls potential client leads, schedules consultations, follows up on existing inquiries. There's the bilingual client liaison. That's someone that maintains client relationships in English and Spanish. The multilingual translator, that person could very well be responsible for translating legal documentations in in Chinese and Portuguese and Spanish, whoever makes up a large part of your clientele. And lastly, court filing and docketing specialist, someone that handles virtual court filings, deadline tracking. You could see there are so many roles that you're probably thinking, oh, I could totally hire for this, even on a part-time or hourly basis, with the hopes of getting them to full-time, assuming you get enough clientele to justify that expense, right? Or that investment, rather. So these are roles that we hear about every day, that are in demand every day. And we have a high degree of confidence that you can hire virtually for them with at least with our framework. Now, before we get into that framework, here are the obvious benefits and some not so obvious benefits. The first one being cost savings. The salary savings and loans are upwards from 30 to 70% across the board from junior to senior roles in most of the roles that I just mentioned here. Not forgetting that you can also hire virtual attorneys, right? Um, but the other aspect of cost savings that goes overlooked, I think, is overhead. We work with a lot of attorneys in major competitive metro areas like Los Angeles, Miami, Houston, New York City. And I'm astonished by the number of attorneys that are saying goodbye to their $20,000 a month, lease office lease, spending, let's call it 80% less than that, and investing their savings into virtual staffing because they just don't need to anymore. And that's a huge, huge P&L booster out of the gates. So don't overlook overhead in general. It's real estate, it's utilities, it's the amount of coffee cups you buy, it's amount of lunches that you may be providing on a weekly basis to your in-house team. Now, you could certainly see virtual professionals as a way to replace your current team. We more like to see it as a supplement in your ability to scale. Number two, self-explanatory, no payroll taxes. When you pay virtual professionals, they are obligated. I believe it's the W-8 is the form. It's an affidavit that says if you work with this US-based organization, you are committing and swearing to the US government that you are going to pay taxes as needed in your own country. Number three, role flexibility. This one's my favorite one because you don't need to have a hire fully committed full time from the moment you hire them. I like hiring folks on an hourly basis, on trial periods, moving them to part-time, moving them to full-time roles. This is a tactic that I see other attorneys employ as well when they want to bring in new scalable staff. Plus, sometimes virtual professionals, they're also testing you out. If they've agreed to work with you on an hourly basis or part-time basis, they're probably working with three or four other organizations and trying to figure out which one's best for them in the long term. Number four, bilingual capabilities. This is especially true in the United States. 20% of the market is Hispanic. If you have Latin American virtual professionals, college educated, fluent in English and Spanish, you just made the capabilities of your firm much stronger in appealing to 1/5 of the country. And lastly, similar time zones from West to East Coast, Pacific to Eastern time. Working with professionals, virtual professionals in Latin America means anywhere from as little as 3, at most 5 hours of difference. I don't know. Hiring outside of that time zone has always personally been very difficult for me to do. I don't know why I struggle with the hiring from folks in Asia from just because of the time zone difference. I don't particularly feel good about employing folks whose work hours are 9 p.m. to 6 a.m. in the morning, their time. It's just something I don't feel good about. That's just a personal preference. A lot of other professionals really don't mind it. In fact, many professionals in, let's call it the Philippines, they have no objection to it either. It's just part of the culture. It's just something I personally don't want to do. And so I would much rather work with professionals who have very similar work life hours as I do. So I think having similar time zone is kind of a superpower in hiring the right virtual staff. So now let's get into the top 10 tips. This is our framework that we've been using for a long time at Abogados Now, but this is also a framework that we see attorneys use. We've frankly just made this list over the years, working with attorneys who gave us this tip, with our own kind of risk taking in our own hiring procedures, and we find that this is a really great way to get hires from very junior and even senior roles into our organization. The first mistake you can make in hiring virtual professionally is just hiring people, which is why tip number one is to design amazing onboarding. Don't hire anyone yet until you have onboarding locked in. Let's take a look at this stat from Flare HR. Employees who undergo a structured onboarding process are 69% more likely to remain with the company for 3 years or more. We were talking to an attorney a work comp attorney in California recently who was really flummoxed on why his virtual staff had quit after just 2 weeks. And we'd asked him about what his onboarding process was. And he said, "What do you mean an onboarding process?" And I was like, "Oh, well, there it is." And so, we had a candid discussion and said, what was your onboarding experience? Was it personalized? Like, did you make your virtual hires, did you introduce them to key staff? Did you tell them about the training experience, what they should expect in their first month? Did you give them a personalized welcome email and a meeting? And did you offer lines of connections to the people that they're working with? And he said no. I'm like, well, it's probably the main issue. They don't know what's happening. They don't feel like you had a plan for them. So they probably just left as a result of that. And he, upon further reflection, agreed. I talked to him about what their 30, 60, 90-day plan was. It was a couple virtual paralegals, one virtual receptionist. And I said, what were the markers of success at 30, 60, 90 days? And he said, we didn't have any. Like he just wanted them to take their experience at prior law firms and just kind of like rinse and repeat. And, he came to the conclusion that, yeah, you're right. No, all law firms are not created equal. They're all different. They all require their own customization for their own hires. All hires are individuals. They require different types of management. So I love 30, 60, 90-day plans because it creates checkpoints on the calendar that are like non-negotiables. In the onboarding, again, and onboarding goes beyond the contracts, getting them set up for payroll, introducing them to accounting. We're talking about creating the sense that you've given them a roadmap, you've given them a plan, that you've prepared for them to be hired. It gives them a sense of like security that they're at a place that is organized, that has a plan for them. Aside from the onboarding, you want to ensure that there's ongoing support and feedback. I personally I hired some IT support recently, and I told them candidly, hey, vulnerable moment. I don't know anything about certain types of servers that we're working with. And this is the first time I'm working with you, IT professional. Just walk me through what you would do in these scenarios if I were to hire you. When they were hired, I told them, great, I'm going to need ongoing support about how I ask for help from you because I'm not too familiar with this world. And I need you to tell me if I've overstepped my boundaries. I need you to tell me if like we're making the right decisions as a company. I need you to tell me candidly if there's a better way to do something. That's what we're hiring you for. So having that ongoing support and feedback, having that open feedback loop is, I think, really key. It's really key to onboarding. So great onboarding in a nutshell is giving your new hires a sense that you have a plan for them so that they stick around. It's often the most overlooked part of not just virtual hiring, just all hiring. Number two, hire for today's constraint. Going to hit you guys with another quote. This one's from the Harvard Business Review. Companies that successfully integrate remote employees in their early stages are 22% more likely to scale efficiently. So the HBR is saying, don't look back. This is the way to scale. So scaling oftentimes means pausing and looking at your firm as sort of like a machine. When you look at your machine, when you go to bed at 11:30 at night, 3 a.m., stressing about how under-resourced you are, how oftentimes it is that you're the one solving most of your team's problems. Maybe you're the only one in your team solving problems as a result of being the only person on your team. Maybe you haven't assessed the bottlenecks or the constraint. What is the constraint in your business? Are you answering too many emails? Are you answering too many phones? Are you conducting too much draft documentation. You have to be very honest about where things are sticking, where things are being held up. And at the early stage, it's often us, the owners. Miraculously, the more we get out of the way, the more gets done, as long as it gets assigned to the right person. So we just have to be honest about the bottleneck. So maybe you're not ready to hire a virtual paralegal or even a virtual attorney or a case manager or someone that helps you on research or discovery. Start small, but clearly define the role based on the bottleneck. The lowest hanging fruit is what I believe to be the executive assistant, the executive assistant professional, someone that tames your email, someone that screens your phone calls, someone that is the first line of communication before they speak to you after they sign your retainer agreement. There's a quote from my friend Andrew Cohen. I believe it's attributed to him. He's the owner of Work Better Now. They are actually a virtual professional staffing company based in the US. They have literally hundreds of companies that depend on them for virtual pros. Um, that's a plug, by the way, because he's great. Um, he always says, if you don't have an assistant, you are the assistant. Pretty powerful words. So hire, start small, start with your assistant because oftentimes the assistant is going to alleviate the major constraint for today. Number three, there's a do-it-yourself version of hiring combined with agencies, like my friends, Andrew's at Work Better Now. Let's talk about that. So, doing it yourself means creating your own job description, putting it out on places like Upwork, on LinkedIn, on Indeed. And if you use geographic filters, saying I want candidates in 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 Mexico, Central America, and South America, because you're looking for bilingual virtual professionals, right? If you use those geographic filters and post your job on these job boards, you will get tons and tons of applications. Now, you'll notice I didn't say tons and tons of great applications. I just said tons and tons of applications. We'll talk about how to filter them in a moment. They're very cost effective. You skip the middleman of, agencies that or recruiters or headhunters. They can be very costly. Then there's the agencies. There are so many. If you just Google, I need a bilingual virtual assistant, you're going to get tons of agencies that claim to hire the best in the world. Um, I just say use the one your attorney best friend forever is already using. The best organizations work on referrals for hiring virtually, so I would say just default to that. I like using both, and I tell attorneys all the time, if you're looking to staff up virtually, post yourself and also use agencies that have already been used by folks in your network. Assess which is best after 1 year. Commit to a year of using all sorts of agencies, all your sorts of do-it-yourself job platforms. Then figure out which one's the best after 1 year. The answer will be very different for every attorney, depending on their bandwidth, depending on how well they screen, how well they write job descriptions, etc. Now, as I mentioned earlier, you're going to get tons of job applications, especially on the DOI side. Now, let's say of 100 applications, you go through all of them and you've assessed that, statistically, probably 15 are okay. 15 have the experience, have the skill set. You could certainly book introductory 15-minute interviews with all 15 of them. I would say skip that and video screen them. That's tip number four. So when you find these candidates, reply immediately because the job market's really competitive. No matter whose job market it is, the employee or the job, or the employer's market, it's always competitive. I never pay attention to those economic metrics on the macro level. I just say if someone's applying for jobs, it's a competition. Reply immediately with the candidates you like with the video screening link. These are services that we've had some experience with: Willow Video, Spark Hire, VidCruiter. They'll allow you to have a personalized link to your candidate to answer, let's call it 2 to 5 questions, introductory questions. And those, once they record them on video, it'll get sent to your inbox for you to review at your leisure. So it's like almost like a pre-interview without having taken time up on your calendar. What does this do? This will help you screen for language fluency. Frankly, if they have a really strong accent, it's probably going to be difficult to establish a professional relationship with them. You can see how they present themselves. Are they doing this video in their car? Are they doing this in a noisy environment? You don't want that. Is their video choppy, which could suggest that they might have intermittent internet disruptions? Like this is what the video screening is amazing for. And then lastly, their overall demeanor. Is it a good vibe? Do you get the sense that this is someone that you could imagine working with every day for several hours a day? Really powerful hack because it gives you the the meeting without it taking up space on your calendar. Extremely powerful. Probably my favorite tip of all these tips here because it's so efficient at scale. Number five, it's creating the perfect interview. There are so many resources on Google on how to conduct the best interview for juniors, mid-level roles, senior level roles. I've never disagreed more with content about hiring than with the content I'm presented with on Google. And maybe that's just a preference. I love asking direct questions about the role I need filled. I do not waste time with ambiguities. What are the tasks? Like before you write your job description, what are the tasks? What are the things that you're doing that you don't want to do anymore? I don't want to answer calls. I don't want to draft documents. I don't want to schedule depositions. I don't want to do follow up with my clients. I don't want to do X, Y, and Z. Write it all down, create that as a job description, and then ask questions related to the things that you don't want to do anymore. Define your expectations in the interview about communication styles. Some people like really brief emails, some people like um, ongoing meeting support in real time. Some people like long form, weekly communications. Everyone's a little different. Also address response rate timeframes. Like how soon interview. Like if you want someone to respond to you within 30 minutes to an hour, interview for that. Ask them, with your last boss, how quickly would you respond to their inquiries, their questions? If they tell you like a day or two, follow up with that. Tell them how comfortable are you with responding within a 32 1 hour framework. And on that video interview, you're going to get a sense of how they will respond to that. Literally ask for what you need. I think that's really what the interview is for. The interview is not just about skill. A lot of skill can be trained, but a lot of this is about expectation management and defining the task and the boxes that you need checked by them being in your organization. There's also crisis handling. Tell them like worst case scenarios in the role. How would they handle it? And lastly, make sure every question is directly related to the role. And if not related to the role, it's about your values, if you've established them as a company, or your culture. And so that's a whole other topic, values and culture. If you've already have that established, then really interview for that. If you don't have that established yet, that requires a whole other discussion. But at minimum, this segment will at least help you understand that interviewing for the specific tasks is 90% of the interview responsibility. Now you've hired. Number six, pay above average. At the junior role, you're probably going to be paying as little as $1,200 a month. For senior roles, $2,500 to $3,000 a month. That's the average for Latin American virtual professionals. I like to opt in to more, 5 to 10% more, because already you're showing a sign of confidence to your candidate that we are willing to pay more than the average because we believe in you. We've really done our diligence on screening many candidates to get to you. We want a premium for you so that you stick around with us. And at any point, ideally after they've passed this trial period, which we'll get into in a moment, give them a clear incentive or a bonus roadmap specific to their needle mover. The needle mover is the measurable metric that they are responsible for. So let's say you don't have that needle mover defined yet. That's what number seven is about. Give them a KPI, a key performance indicator. Make them own that key performance indicator. Here's an example. Let's start with marketing. If you're hiring someone that manages your website, manages your social media, maybe it's followers per month or potential client leads per month compared to before they were hired. Maybe it's how many website visits your website gets as a result of the work that they're doing on your website. With paralegals, it's turnaround times for case preparation. It's for all the tasks in case preparation, how many deadlines are met, plus or minus on days. Something very measurable. Let them own that. Say, this is your number. We need your help with this number. It takes 2 weeks to turn around X, Y, and Z. I want you to get that down to 1 week. How do we do this together? How do we help your number? How do we help you get your bonus, your incentive? With billings and collections, it's the collections rate. It's payment plan success rate. Maybe, we work with a lot of criminal defense attorneys. So many of them offer payment plans and they struggle with default rates. This is a very common thing. And it's oftentimes because they have fractional CFO or fractional accounting, but they don't have someone on the inside making calls, sending texts, sending emails, trying to establish some like empathetic like communications between the firm and the client about how to get their delinquent payments settled. These are needle movers. These are very measurable. I call it like the no shade area. It's like there's no shade. It's just absolute. These are the numbers that frankly define your success or lack of it in your role. Number eight, you want a trial period. I talked about flexibility earlier. You want to offer a trial period between 30 and 90 days. The shorter trial periods for more junior roles, longer for more senior or strategic roles, or even project-based roles. And in that trial period, you want to tell that hire, listen, we're going to pay you more. We're going to give you an incentive roadmap. We're going to let you own a metric that we can measure and manage to. And I want you to work on these three really easy things and three extremely difficult things that I don't even know where to start with. This is a great way to set expectations that you have a plan. Remember, it's about onboarding. It's about telling them this is the plan. I have these things that I need done, and I also have these projects that are beyond my capabilities. I need your help. And in that trial period, you're giving them a trial, right? But believe it or not, they're also giving you a trial. Hiring is a two-way street. We should like the people that we work with. Frankly, some folks are very prudish and will say, I only want them to work really well with me. And I think that can work. in absolutes, certainly. But if you want scale, if you want, especially virtual professionals, to tell other virtual professionals, hey, I love the Jerry Johnson law firm. You should work with me at the Jerry Johnson law firm because I like my manager. When I make mistakes, they don't just yell at me and treat me poorly. When I succeed, they really promote it. They give me crazy bonuses because of this thing that I get to manage on my own. They give me autonomy. The two-way street of hiring is important to accept because it will affect how many more qualified candidates will go into your organization. Number nine, create a consistent cadence of communication. Put these on the calendar without exception. There should be, if not a daily, there must be a weekly, if not a monthly check-in. I think in the beginning stages, especially in that trial period, it's a mix of daily and weekly, where your hires, your virtual professional hires, they see that you treat their time just as you treat your own time with a lot of respect. And they see that you treat your in-house hires or your domestic staff the same way you treat them with regards to meetings. You want those check-ins to review task and project tracking for their trial period to see if they're pacing for their um, their their goals, especially the ones that give them their incentives, their bonuses. You want to use tools to task this, Monday.com, ClickUp, um, Trello. Many of these are free. Google Sheets, always a fan of Google Sheets. But you want this like neutral document for tracking to show objectively if things are heading in the right direction. This is a great way to check in for task and project tracking, but it's also a great way to just check in with them as a person. Don't forget to be a human. You might be on the 27th floor of a beautiful building downtown with all the amenities in your lobby, and you're probably a 10-minute commute from your home. You might be working with virtual professionals who are working in really distressed communities where there's potentially violence in their communities, economic strife. You might also be working with folks who just went through a breakup, whose dog died, and you can't forget to be a human in these scenarios of check-ins. These are people, these aren't just assets, these aren't just investments. I would say we need to be a little more delicate with how we manage virtually because of all those factors I just mentioned, which are just few of literally thousands. And lastly, number 10, show that everyone is on the same team. So you have your hires, you've got their bonuses, their incentives, you've got them on a trial period, you've got those check-ins. How are you going to make them feel like they're really on the team? So many ways. You celebrate the same holidays. You include everyone in team-wide meetings or in department-wide meetings. Ensure perks are accessible to everybody. We have a perk at Abogados Now where we send treats to our managers every first business day of the month. So we said, how are we going to send treats to folks in Delaware, Jersey, Vegas, Providence, but also Ecuador, Buenos Aires, Chile? And we figured out, oh, well, there's Uber Eats here, there's Grubhub, but there's also similar ordering services in South America, like Pedidos Ya. It's also Uber Eats works out there. And so everyone in our team huddles each month has their treats. It's the first of the month. We want to make sure that our perks are accessible to everyone, that the virtual professional doesn't feel like they're at a disadvantage being in their home country versus those of their domestic counterparts. And lastly, hold everyone to the same standards, regardless of geography. You want everyone to know that you have standards at scale. Everyone's got cadences and meetings and bonuses and check-ins and task lists and trial periods, whether or not they're sitting just a few yards from you or whether or not they're literally 4 to 6,000 miles away from you. So I appreciate everyone's time in joining me on today's virtual program. I want to recap the uh, the uh, the list here. We're number one, we're going to make onboarding amazing. We're going to hire for today's constraint. You want to use a mix of do-it-yourself hiring plus agencies. You want to screen via self-submitted video. You want to create the interview that's meant for that role only. You want to pay above average. You want to give them a metric to own. You want to be very clear with the trial period. You want to create a consistent cadence of communication to check in on your professional as a human, but also as the professional in your organization. And lastly, you want to show that everyone is on the same team. So thank you to everyone for joining today. If you have any other questions about this program, feel free to email me, hugo@abogadosnow.com, and we'll see you at the next webinar. Bye-bye.